There we go.
Welcome back, everyone. This is V Wallace. This is JC, Jimmy Clark.
What's going on?
And this is Sports Rehab, the place where all sports addicts go. And Jimmy, we're definitely glad to be on the air to talk about some serious issues, some fun issues. And, of course, by the end of the night, you guys are going to hear me rail on the Dallas Cowboys a pretty good amount because there was a lot of things that went down here recently that I wasn't happy with.
Well, Vince, I think Grandmaster Flash said it best. It's like a jungle. Sometimes it makes me wonder how we keep from going under.
Better believe it. Better believe it. But before we get too deep into that, there was other Cowboy news today, Jimmy.
Yes.
And we're going to jump right into our topics today, people. We're going to go for this solid hour and a half, have a good time doing it. And on today, Jimmy, I imagine you saw this.
Yes.
Actually, I didn't see it until you texted me about it.
Right.
Ezekiel Elliott. Apparently, the Fifth Circuit Court vacated the injunction that's allowed Zeke to play the last 5 games. So he is now facing a 6-game suspension that theoretically should be starting with not this weekend but next weekend's game.
Right. Right.
Now, just to give the viewership out there a brief history of what's happened. Okay, so Ezekiel Elliott charged with domestic violence.
Yes.
The NFL ruled that Zeke would need to serve a 6-game suspension.
Right.
Even though he wasn't charged on the court system, they ruled conduct detrimental or whatever it was.
Right.
He's got to go 6 games. And so based on that ruling, the players union took it to arbitration. Now, the crazy thing about the NFL system is that, well, you mediate it, and the arbitrator is the NFL. So, Harold Henderson.
Yes.
And when they mediated it, prior to getting a result from that arbitrator, even though everybody kind of knew what the result was going to be, prior to getting a result from that arbitrator, the players union filed a lawsuit requesting an injunction of the suspension based on the denial of their appeal through the arbitrator.
Yes.
So they did that prior to Harold Henderson even rendering a verdict. Okay, so then, of course, the NFL ends up denying the appeal, as everyone knew that they would.
Of course.
But they filed here in Sherman, and the injunction was granted. So then, of course, Zeke can now play.
Right.
So the NFL appealed the granting of the injunction.
Yeah, they said the court had no jurisdiction.
Well, no, they said that you can't file for an injunction based on the ruling before the ruling is actually given.
Right.
and so the NFL appealed that.
Right.
And now we find out that they did win that appeal.
Right.
So the NFL Players Association is going back and getting their paperwork in order so they can refile to get that injunction. Right. Sounds really confusing. You almost need a law degree.
Right.
I've learned more about injunctions and court cases dealing with the NFL over the last 2 years, Tom Brady first, than I ever wanted to know.
Right. I liked it when my knowledge of the court system came from A Few Good Men and A Time to Kill.
Right. You have these dramatic lawyers.
Yes, with great speeches.
There you go. I thought it was all Perry Mason until I found out that's not what it's really about. Okay, so what we have now is the Players Association refiling the lawsuit requesting an injunction of the suspension.
Right.
So this isn't anywhere over, but Jimmy, were you surprised?
I was surprised on the quickness of the result. You know, you and I had spoken a number of times about this and the fact that I truly believed, like with Tom Brady, that this was going to take at least a year, and so you were going to have Zeke play all year long. Now, I also thought he's still going to end up serving time, or not time,
suspension.
But serving suspension.
You shocked me. I was like, no. Do you know something I don't, Jimmy?
Serving suspension. Thought it would maybe get dropped to 4 games, but knew it wasn't going to go to 0. You know, I think we both agreed it was never going to go to 0.
Right.
But I did think it would get dropped. But now you're looking at, I think the NFL is posturing quite a bit and has so much pull. And we know the dollar moves everything.
Absolutely.
The dollar moves everything. I think part of this is the NFL wants this over with. And they're trying to get this moved on as quickly as possible. So you have Zeke service suspension. They don't have to deal with it next year. Because you don't want this carrying over one year to another. Because suffice it to say, this is the Dallas Cowboys. This is one of your three premier organizations in the NFL.
Yes.
You don't ever want them not having their best players. Well, now you're going to have Zeke, or clarify, you want them not having their best players as little as possible. You want to get this all resolved in 1 year. The Dallas Cowboys predicted by most to be the representative for the NFC in at least the championship game, if not the Super Bowl.
Okay, now, a couple of things. I got to ask you this question.
Okay.
Sure enough, they want it resolved this year.
Yes.
But which do they want more? It resolved this year, or to see that their power is blunted a bit?
That's a great question. And it's a probably evenly owned sword on both sides of that question.
See, I would assume that they are more concerned. Roger Goodell is more concerned with the power of the league office, being able to dole out these punishments, being able to pretty much do what they want when it comes to suspensions and player punishment. So I think they really want to hold on to that power.
Okay.
And the only way that they're going to let any of it go is going to be through collective bargaining when the next CBA comes up.
Which we already know is probably going to end up being a strike time anyway.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They need to maintain this power because the way negotiations are done in collective bargaining, I give a little, I get a little.
Yep.
So I'm going to give you this ultimately so that I can get this. And I'm talking about probably additional revenue.
Right.
And so I believe he's not wanting to give that up.
Right.
And that right now is more important to them than the Dallas Cowboys' best player being sidelined.
You think so even in the case of declining ratings?
Even so in the case of declining ratings. Because I believe the NFL takes and we'll talk on the protest here in a bit, but I think they take the notion that this will pass.
Probably so.
But whenever you start talking about collective bargaining agreements, we're talking 10 years from now.
Right.
So this is something that we've really got to address. And I've got to maintain this power so that I can negotiate my own power down.
Yeah. It's the stranglehold that he wants and needs. I think Roger Goodell also realizes that in all reality, based on seeing how this is unfolding, I think he realizes his time is short for the NFL.
Suspending Zeke, suspending Tom Brady, like you just said, probably the two premier franchises in the NFL are the Dallas Cowboys and the New England Patriots. And their owners are probably the most well-known
and vocal
and well-respected in the ownership circle.
Yes.
You have ticked off both of them.
Right.
There is going to be a payday for that.
Of course there is.
Yes, and it's coming. I think I read a little while back that Jerry Jones, after the Zeke thing came down, wanted a review
yes, he did.
Of Roger Goodell's compensation.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, you screw with me, I'm screwed with you.
Right.
Jerry's got a little gangster in him that way.
Yeah. And that's the wildcatter in him. I mean, it's the whole, look, I built this from the ground up. Remember when Jerry bought the Cowboys, he was losing $1 million a month.
Yes.
And has turned that around into the most valuable sports franchise.
In America. That's baseball, football, whatever you want to call it. They're worth $4.1 billion.
Yeah. And I think only one, like maybe Real Madrid or Barcelona soccer clubs are worth more.
Clubs,
yeah.
Yes.
So when you look at that on a global scale, Jerry starts looking at it and goes, I don't like what you're doing, and it kind of makes me feel like you're messing with my money.
And you start messing with Jerry's money, there are going to be calls made.
No doubt. So this, I don't want to say it's going to be interesting to see how this unfolds because I'm quite frankly exhausted of it.
Because it's like it's 2 years running.
Right.
It's like it's 2 years running. We had to deal with Tom.
Right.
And that was exhausting. And then you backdoor it with Zeke. And I'll be frank with you, in both of the instances, in Tom's instance, I don't think the punishment fit the crime.
Right.
Number one. And you could blame cell phones, whatever. You already know my take on that. I wouldn't give him my cell phone either.
Right.
And when it comes to Zeke, no criminal charges actually filed. Not even charged with a crime. It's a case of he said, she said.
Right.
And the lead investigator, I think this here is a part of it that a lot of people ignore, but the lead investigator felt as though Zeke, the lead investigator of the NFL, felt as though Zeke should not be charged because she found the witness to be uncredible.
Right.
So pretty much she said, I believe this chick is lying.
Yeah. Right. And when you take that, the frustration is even more so the fact that she wasn't even allowed to be part of the proceeds as far as the appeal went.
Right.
Remember that? And you're sitting there going, the one you hired and put in place
to investigate, and now you understand, I don't like your answer, so you stay outside now. You know, it's literally.
Yeah.
And this isn't figurative. Like, we don't want to hear your opinion. It's literally, we're not even letting you in the room,
right,
because we don't like what you may say.
Exactly.
That's the problem that the NFL has with this whole thing.
Right.
Because it's like we investigate to come to the conclusion that we want.
Right.
And all of it, if you really want to dig a little bit deeper in it, all of it is to placate all of these groups outside, all of the noise,
yes,
that's bringing derogatory, pretty much derogatory and slander against the Shield.
Yeah.
And so they don't want the derogatory words. They don't want to fool it. So we've got women's groups now over here.
Yes.
And it's turning people off the way we're treating it. The Ray Rice thing was a debacle. So in order to placate these people, we're having to do and go far beyond what we really believe should be done. We're just trying to keep the advertisers happy.
Yeah.
And we're doing it at the expense of Zeke Elliott in this case.
Right. Right.
Now, some of the things that came out in Zeke's report, I mean, whew, bro, you got a few issues there.
Yeah.
There's no doubt you got a few issues
right.
there. But in the end, there has to be a certain sense of fairness in the process. And when you don't let the lead investigator who came to a conclusion that you didn't like be involved in the punishment in that particular part of the process, it just reeks of unfairness.
I agree. And Vince, I'm telling you this, I'm going to be one of the last people that lets things bother me about watching the sport that I love. Mm-hmm. But it is that itch is showing, or it's showing up, and it's growing very, very frustrating and exhausting.
Yes.
I get that we live in a world where we have to fill 24 hours of news every day. I hate that exists, because that means I have to hear about this and read about this. Anytime I just want to see what's going on in the world. This is a headline. And
I hate to say it, but I wish we could go back to the days where I was just tired of hearing about Tim Tebow.
Thank you. Yeah.
We didn't realize how good we had it.
Oh, my gosh. ESPN just manufactured stories to make Tebow at the forefront.
Right.
And that guy plays baseball now.
Yes. Yes.
So here's my big concern with all of this, Vince, is does this turn into the biggest calamity as far as when the collective bargaining agreement comes about, that we don't just miss one season, but it bleeds over into multiple because of a strike situation?
The NFL has to really be concerned about a strike. That's got to be the thing that they feel as though they can't handle right now, because you've got this, you've got the kneeling that we're going to talk about here in a bit, and you've got CTE.
Yeah.
And that CTE thing's not going away.
Right.
And that's that underlying thing where moms are pulling their sons off the football field that we know is coming, and there's going to be some repercussions 10 years down the road. The NFL can't go through a strike process. They can't do a strike. They're going to have to give. And one of the reasons they're holding on to that power is because we're going to use this as one of those negotiating chips.
So, it's funny, when you look back at the previous strikes, you had the season in 83, you had 87.
87, right.
When you look at what players make now versus then, these players can go forever without playing again. A good portion of it.
We think that, man. No, I just heard about Adrian Peterson defaulting on $2.5 million.
I know.
So we think that, but to be frank with you, a lot of them make it and spend it, Jimmy.
I know, but part of me from my old financial planning background says, well, if they go through the strike, I hope it helps them understand that this money doesn't come in forever.
Right.
But we've seen example after example after example of what bankruptcy looks like, because athletes do have the mindset that once the money starts coming in, it's going to keep coming in. And we know that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you look at the fact that the average NFL player doesn't last long enough to get a pension.
No, he's at 4 years. Pension doesn't kick in to 5.
Right. So you look at these guys. One, if I'm anything as far as a player advocate, if DeMaurice Smith,
that's it.
Yeah, DeMaurice Smith is doing things right now. If he's smart, he needs to be having his player union representatives in front of the other teammates talking about, you need to start saving some money.
But I don't think they can go to a holdout. I just don't think we can go to a strike situation, man, because you know how that takes the fan through the ringer, puts us on a roller coaster. We want our football. We demand our football when we need our football. And if they do that, I think it'll be worse than what Major League Baseball went through in '94.
I agree, because it is the juggernaut of sports now.
Yes.
I mean, it is. And the NBA, from a dollars perspective, is up there, but the love of the game is not near there like it is.
Passion.
Yeah. The NFL game has, I mean, it's now on a global standing.
Yes.
I mean, it's one of those, in essence, it's the standard by which you measure all other sports against, as far as profitability, fan love, and dedication. So, I mean, you have fans that are up there like soccer fans now. I mean, now they're not trampling each other, but there are fans right now, though, that are livid about what's going on.
Yes.
And I hate to say it, Vince, I'm getting there. I want to see the game of football played.
You know, I think that Mark Cuban talked about when the NFL moved to Thursday nights, he talked about, what is it, pigs get slaughtered?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's talking about the breed of the NFL.
Yeah.
And I think that's another thing that we're kind of seeing as well. Because that Thursday night game, now you've got the Sunday, you've got the Monday. They're controlling so many days of the week. I think that has a lot to do with those ratings dropping as well. You can get to, we used to call it in economics, it's diminishing marginal utility.
Yeah.
Where eventually I've got so much of it that now, you know, it's not another bit is adding any value.
Right.
And so I think the NFL has a significant problem. If they go to a strike situation, I don't think it's going to be good.
Not at all. Yeah, it's funny you bring that up. I was thinking about that. The Thursday night game is an absolute – it's almost unwatchable. Every week it's almost unwatchable.
I don't think most NFL fans even want a Thursday night game. I'm an NFL fan. I do not want a Thursday night game.
No. When we were putting this together for this night, the fact that there was a Thursday night game never even came across our minds.
Right.
And part of the product of the NFL right now, in its greatness, is that on a Sunday, for example, it's if I don't like the game that I'm watching, I can watch another.
Exactly.
The Thursday night game, and the fact that it seems like 90% of them have just been absolutely terrible. And think about that. You're getting that on both sides, too, with the focus games. So the Monday night and the Thursday night. This coming week, prime example. We have Indianapolis, and Tennessee on Monday night.
Who wants to see that?
Who is going to watch that game? You have two markets that are going to watch that game. Barely.
Indianapolis and Tennessee.
Right.
And that's it.
The rest of America is going to go, I might watch a little bit of it, but in all reality, they're going to watch more of the pregame and the halftime show than they will the actual game.
Right.
And so you have this saturation. And when things become saturated, they become unusable. And so the NFL has a lot of inward-looking, retrospective kind of positioning they need to do because, and to tie this back to Zeke and all that, what you're doing with the singling out is going to bleed into the masses. And as we talk about the kneeling situation, you're seeing that from a player perspective right now.
I think they've got some issues, and they better start to work on them. And as long as we're talking kneeling, let's go ahead and get into that a little bit.
Well, before we do, I wanted to talk to you about something. knowing, or you and I not knowing, right, we don't know everything.
Mm-hmm.
Close though, but
yeah, that far away,
right.
Jimmy.
No, you and I having the understanding that more than likely Zeke would serve some time. I keep wanting to say serve time, serve some sort of punishment.
I believe Zeke's going to eventually end up serving the 6 games,
right?
Because in the collective bargaining agreement, no matter how unfair it is,
you signed off on it.
You signed up and you gave him that authority. It's the same thing with Tom Brady.
Right.
He was going to serve those 4 games. Zeke is going to serve these 6 games.
Right.
Once it was doled out, it was a done deal.
Right.
All you're really doing is fighting for this season. The reason the Cowboys were fighting for this season is because we thought we had an opportunity for a Super Bowl.
Right.
We have young talent. We have a nice line. Sean Lee's not getting any younger. This is a season that could actually be a Super Bowl winning season. And you get so few of them, even when you have as much talent as someone. Only people that really stretch it across decades are the New England Patriots.
Right.
Put it to you like that. If you think about the greatness of the Dallas Cowboys from the 90s, and we all think they were superlative, we think they were great, they only had a 4-year window.
Right.
So you can't sacrifice it. So I understand you can't sacrifice one of those years. So I understand why the need to fight this, because we can't go even 1 year, waste even 1 year with an opportunity at a Super Bowl.
It's what we saw in Seattle, in the fact that you have a quarterback making league minimum.
Yes.
You have that now. So you have that for 2 more years.
Yes.
Or for this year and next year. That's what you've got. And then Dak Prescott gets $20+ million a year. That's going to happen. So your window to be able to pay your offensive lineman, which is where successful teams go, when they don't have to pay their quarterback, they pay as much inside that line as they can, hopefully on both sides. But that's where that money goes. So in a year and a half, that is no longer the opportunity.
Well, it's a little longer than that, because you get a 4-year. Well, hold on. You're right. He was a 4th-round pick, so it's not a first round.
No.
Yeah, it's not a first-round deal, so
yeah.
He only gets that 4 years.
And so that in that 4th year is when you do your let's keep you from going to arbitration type thing.
Right.
So it's that 4th year. So that means this is his 2nd, next year the 3rd. After that, somebody is paying him $20 million a year.
Well, they'll restructure. Well, he'll still pay as far as salary cap hit. The 4th year will be the same. I believe the 4th year will be the same. Yeah, because the signing bonus is going to count moving forward.
You're right.
Whatever they extend.
But again, that window is closing.
Yeah, it's a window.
Window is closing. So what I'm getting at with all this is, and it's easy to say with the fact that they're 2-3, but looking back, wouldn't you have rather now just say, Zeke, let's serve the first 6 games because you're 2-3 now.
We probably would have been 2-3 without Zeke.
Without Zeke, you're still probably going to win against San Francisco next week. So you still end up being 3-3.
That's kind of, didn't we say that?
That's what we got to. Yeah,
3-3.
Exactly.
Yeah, we thought we'd be a little better with Zeke than that.
Yeah.
Because I definitely counted the Rams as a win. Who wouldn't have before the season
no
started,
doubt.
Right?
No doubt.
So I thought 4-2. I think was it 4-2?
Yeah, we talked about being 4-2.
Right. So
I said 3-3, just because I thought that they would get a surprise game in there. But still, it's just one of those where you're going, you're in the same boat. And the suspension's over. So, and again, hindsight's 20/20. It's easy to say that now, but boy, as a Cowboys fan, you have to be thinking, would have been nice to just get that over with.
And sometimes it's better to rip the Band-Aid off.
And that's what I was getting at is you drag this out, knowing the CBA says I've got to serve these games. We signed off on it. You're delaying the inevitable, and now you're doing it going into games that have much more impact because now you're talking division games.
Right.
And because what do they have? Plus, they've got Atlanta in that. Kansas City.
We've got a tough row.
So
Philadelphia's looking good. Washington looks a lot better.
Right.
I mean, it's not going to be easy to win the East.
Yeah. You might be looking at 2-4 over the 6 games. So if you're 4-7 when Zeke comes back against Washington in Week 13.
I don't think there will be 4-7.
I'm just looking at hypotheticals here, but
why do you smile when you say it though, Jimmy?
Well, because they're against Washington.
4-7. You seem to get just a little.
Because hail to the Redskins, Vince! Hail victory!
A glimmer of excitement at the thought of the Cowboys being 4-7. I can't go with you there. I'm sorry. I got to bail.
if you're a Cowboys fan and there is this possibility of being 4-7 on a season coming off where you were 13-3 and really you were 14-2 because that last game just nobody cared. Right. But what I'm getting at is if you're 4-7 and now you have to go 4-7, that's 11 games, so you've got 5 left. You got to go 4-1 just to finish 500.
Well, you have to go 5-0 to
you got to
playoffs.
You got to go 5-0.
You got to go. I think
right.
With the Eagles being where they are, I don't know what the game's looking like tonight.
They were down 10-3 when we first came in, but use the internet.
But with them being where they are, I think that you're going to have to be 9-7 minimum to make the playoffs.
I agree.
So
tied 10-10. It started at halftime.
We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But I still don't believe that Zeke's going to serve the suspension this year. I don't think he is. I think it's going to be appealed.
Okay.
And I think they're going to appeal it in New York. And when they appeal it in New York, they're going to get another injunction.
Well, but remember, if you read into this, the Southern District of New York Court, that's Manhattan, where the league office is, and this court has been rare to grant that second appeal.
We'll see.
I'm with you. I will say I want to see how this plays out, but I want it. Whatever the result is, I want the answer quickly. I don't want this drawn out.
I don't think there's any way it goes without being drawn out.
Okay.
I think it's going to be drawn out. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about. You want to tackle kneeling?
Yeah. I think we should.
Let's go straight to it. So, for the viewers out there, that I would imagine everyone here knows that there's been kneeling in the NFL. Colin Kaepernick initially started it. He kneeled to protest. I think his exact words were he didn't feel like he should stand for the flag just because of the police brutality that's going on in America right now.
Right. The America he knows is not what he wants to salute.
Right.
And so it's nothing against the military. It's nothing against his patriotism. I would be willing to bet that Colin Kaepernick loves this country.
I would bet the same thing.
But the platform has become widespread.
And now we've seen a lot of players follow suit. They, too, are kneeling. And it seemed that it was dying down for a while. It wasn't as big of an issue.
Then Trump.
People started watching their football just to watch their football.
Yes.
And then Trump in Alabama came out and said he wants those SOBs. He wants them. They should have been thrown off the field immediately. They shouldn't have been allowed to play America's game. He called them SOBs, and that ignited the players, ignited the media.
Yes.
And then the players, in a lot of show of solidarity, kneeled either prior to, after, during, or they didn't come out for the national anthem.
Right.
And with that, I think there was a lot of backlash from just the population.
Right.
As far as there's a significant amount of disrespect. It was reignited, and now Jerry Jones comes out this week and says no Dallas Cowboy will be allowed to kneel for the anthem, and if they do, they will not be allowed to play. Now, the crazy thing about that statement, though, is that no Dallas Cowboy had kneeled for the anthem.
Right. You didn't have a fire going, and now you're starting one.
Yes. And I think Jerry primarily did it, and I'm going to – what do you think his motivation is, Jimmy?
Money.
I think it has
advertising.
Nothing to do with patriotism. It has nothing to do with anything else but money. And I don't blame Jerry. It's a business.
No doubt.
And it's his business. And he invested the $189 million that is now worth $4.1 billion.
It's a good return.
An absolutely wonderful return. But I think it is all based on money for Jerry.
I agree.
And just to back up a little bit, a lot of people may not know this part of the story, and I think it had something to do with it. Jerry put this mandate out, and immediately an ESPN reporter, Jamel Hill, started talking about get to Jerry based on the advertisers. If you don't like what Jerry said, you go through the advertisers. That's where you hit them. Now, you got to understand, there is a partnership between ESPN and the NFL.
They've got Monday night.
Yes. So you have a partnership. So I'm sure there were phone calls made. Probably that's what resulted in Jemele Hill being on suspension is the fact that phone calls were made. Because I would guarantee you Jerry's on the phone saying, "Don't you talk about my advertisers."
Right, right.
And so I am completely 100% with you. And I think that the fact that they immediately went to, when she mentioned advertisers, she was immediately suspended. Mm-hmm. That's a dirty little secret. We're not supposed to expose that. You're not supposed to talk advertisers. But truth be told, I'm with you completely. I've heard Jerry Jones gets over 1,700 checks a week during NFL season from various advertisers. 1,700 checks a week. I'm not jeopardizing that over your desire to protest.
Right.
And so I think that's the reason Jerry said it. I don't blame him as a businessman for saying it. Now, you asked me if I think it was right or wrong to say it. Jimmy, was it right or wrong to say it?
I'm going to this is weird to say, but for those of you who've seen it, we talked about it a little bit. Dale Hansen put out an op-ed, on his show here in Dallas a couple weeks ago. And one of the resounding statements from that is, "You're not protesting the way I want you to, so it's wrong."
Right.
What protest is done in a way that I want you to? The one that doesn't exist, right? If you're protesting against something that affects me, the only protest I agree with is the one that doesn't exist.
I will tell you that no one likes protesting when it jeopardizes their money.
Of course.
Okay? But in America, and, we talk racially here, and we talk pretty open about it. I will tell you that white America in the 60s didn't like marches for civil rights.
No.
85%, this is the number, 85% of white Americans did not feel as though that was an appropriate way to protest, did not feel as though it was going to advance the Negro cause, and believed that the marching needed to stop.
So my response to this, and my thought process lately in regard to this is, I'm not going to sit here and pretend to represent white America, because I think white America does a plenty good job of representing itself all the time. I understand that I'm part of the majority. I was born with this skin color. I didn't choose it, but I've said it 100 times, Vince. I've not experienced the same youth, just day-to-day experiences that you have.
There's a difference.
So the biggest thing that always is the problem is if you ask someone, okay, then how would you like me to protest?
Because I will tell you this, Jimmy. Right now, because these polls have been done, 83% of white America does not believe in the Black Lives Matter movement, primarily because they view it as violent. A lot of them talked about the shouting and the fighting that goes on when they are involved.
Right.
They don't like the violence associated with the Black Lives Matter movement.
Right.
Well, we've got an alternative here in the NFL. We've got a peaceful protest.
Right.
No violence.
Right.
It is as peaceful as it gets. It's not even speaking. You are kneeling in silence. So if you don't like the quote-unquote violent protests associated with the Black Lives Matter movement, and you don't like the quiet protesting associated with the NFL right now, it sounds to me like you just don't like protesting.
Well, and that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
When you ask, how would you, if I'm in the middle of a protest and you don't like it, the problem is I have every right then to go, I have the right to protest peacefully. I'm not hurting anyone. I have a stance that I want to get a point across. I'm now asking you, Vince. I'm protesting you and your car. Mm-hmm. I don't like how loud you play your music, Vince.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't like the fact that I stand behind your car until you turn it down, then I'm going to ask you, what way would you like me to protest? Because me asking you that is basically getting you to say, what's it going to take for us to move the needle here.
Because I have to inconvenience you.
And an inconvenience is the only way, because that's really what the problem is. You're going against the status quo. I like my football to be national anthem, cheer, get hyped up before the game, kickoff, plays, exciting ending, game over, let's wait for next week. That's what I want my football to be. You're making it different. We all know that most people don't like change.
Right.
And that's, the easiest way to protest is to force someone to change even a little bit.
Now, getting back to Jerry, though, just talking on Jerry, I do have issue. I don't have issue with Jerry being a businessman and saying this is bad for business, because he's right. It is bad for business, let's be honest.
Right.
But what I do have a problem with is Jerry taking a moralistic view.
No doubt.
Because Jerry is the last person that can take a moralistic view. Jerry has defended players who have beaten women, players who have killed other players.
Right.
Mean, actually, DWI just killed another Dallas Cowboy. Best friend, yeah. Jerry just cannot stand on the shoulders of, I'm doing the right thing out of patriotism.
Right.
I don't think he gets that. He doesn't get that pass.
It kills me, because you know what I hear when Jerry does that? It's the same shrill thing in the back of my head when I hear Trump read scripture.
Right.
You don't know anything about the good book. You don't. Because you never had... The good book is a source of hope. And what do we talk about all the time, Vince? Most of us are just looking for hope in this world. I'm looking for hope for my team to do well. That's why I keep watching. That's why I cheer. And hopefully some of my energy translates to them doing better. If you've never had the need for hope, and Jerry hasn't had the need for hope in 25 years.
Right.
So don't post yourself up as some martyr that I'm taking a hit here, but I'm doing it for the greater good.
Right. This is for the nation's values.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Jerry doesn't care about the nation's values. Jerry cares about dollar bills. The only color that matters to Jerry is green. It is not red, white, or blue.
Not at all.
It is green. And Jerry's stance is to protect Jerry's billions. That's what he's looking at. Those 1,700 checks that come weekly.
Right.
That's what this mandate was all about for Jerry Jones.
No doubt.
It was not about any kind of national pride.
Right.
It was not about the flag, and it was not about the anthem. And anybody that doesn't that believes otherwise does not know Jerry Jones's history, because his history says something different.
Completely.
He is not a moral person. It's kind of like on Gladiator when the guy talks about Commodus.
Oh.
And he says, Commodus is not a moral man. He must not lead. I mean, Jerry Jones is not a moral man.
No.
Now, I will tell you this, though, in defense of Jerry, and I know I just knocked Jerry, but trust and believe, Jerry loves the Dallas Cowboys, and in no shape, form, or fashion do I believe that Jerry Jones is a racist. I know that that's been hinted around because people want to say it was a slave master mentality statement.
I don't agree with that either at all.
Well, there is hints of it, and I'll break down the hints for you. But generally speaking, I do not believe Jerry is in the slightest way racist. I believe that Jerry Jones is just a lover of his cash. And that doesn't mean he hates this group. It just means he loves this thing.
Yes.
And anything that gets in the way of the love of this thing, he may hate that. Now, and that's just the end all be all, because Jerry does not give a damn about domestic violence. He doesn't. His history shows he doesn't.
Right.
Jerry does not give a damn about his players as far as going off doing whatever they want to do on the weekend, be it drugs, be it womanizing, be it whatever it is. He doesn't care. As long as you are there on Sunday at noon to catch a football, to run a football, or to tackle.
Yeah.
Jerry doesn't care. He doesn't. And I will defend you to no end, even though you do all these things, I will defend you to no end as long as you're here to do this particular job for me at this particular time.
Right. If Greg Hardy could have given him 10 sacks a year,
he'd still be on the team. He'd still be on the team.
He'd be making $25 million a year.
Yes.
And Jerry would tell us weekly about how he's moved on, how he's rehabilitated, and Jerry would also toot his own horn a little bit with, we have helped him do that.
Yes, yes. Jerry's an opportunist. But most great billionaires that are self-made are opportunists.
No doubt.
This is not surprising stuff.
No.
This is what we expect out of Jerry Jones. So I wasn't surprised by it, and I don't think that Jerry Jones is a racist. Anybody that calls him a racist doesn't know Jerry as well, because Jerry helps a lot in communities, helps his players. I mean, he loves his players.
Yes.
And you could say he loves them because they make him money. You could say that. Whatever the reason you want to say it, when some of those players stop making Jerry money, Jerry still does for a lot of those players.
Of course he does.
I've heard stories.
Right.
So I believe that Jerry has a genuine affinity for those that have worn the star on their helmet. Mm-hmm. I think that Jerry does make sacrifices that we may never hear about. He does things for these players that we may never know about. So I think it's unfair to broadly term him a racist based on this action, because I don't think this action had anything to do with race.
I agree with you.
For Jerry Jones, it had everything to do with dollars and cents.
You know, one thing that, obviously the players are livid about this stance, though, because they feel that you're taking away their right. Now, we do live in a world where if you don't want to work here, and I'm not taking a stance here. I'm just merely explaining that employers have every right to say, this is part of the job. This is what you have to do to be able to work here.
That's right.
So let's remember, I can still protest if I'm unemployed. No, people may not listen to me, and I might not have the platform, but...
Well, I think the difference there, though, is an employee. See, if you play for the Dallas Cowboys, you're not a quote-unquote employee. You're contract labor.
Of course.
And it's a negotiated deal. If in the CBA it said you were, by contract, supposed to stand for the national anthem, and this is the result, then I think Jerry would be within his rights to say, put
Sure.
out that kind of edict. But because there is not one there, then I do have the right to do what I want at that time, because all these things are collective bargaining. How I act when I'm not on the football field is part of my contract.
Right.
I can't play. Some players can't play basketball.
Right.
They can't ride motorcycles. A lot of things that you want me not to do, they put it within the contract. The CBA is the same way.
Right.
In the NBA, they forcefully have to stand for the national anthem. If those guys decided to kneel, there can be repercussion, because they agreed that that was something, it was collectively bargained. In the NFL, it was not collectively bargained. So you can't get to go, oops, I missed that, let's do it this way anyway. Because that's exactly going back to what we're talking about with Zeke Elliott and why we think he's going to serve 6 games. That's what was collectively bargained.
Right.
So you're going to serve your 6 games, be it this year, be it next year, you're going to serve them.
Right.
Just like in the NFL, you're going to have to take the medicine with these players kneeling because you didn't collectively bargain it.
Right. And, I've read some other things over the past week and a half that state that somehow Goodell will be able to implement something based on, Jerry starting this kind of mandate and getting some momentum to move that forward league-wide. I'm curious to see how this is going to play out, to see if something gets implemented as far as because the one thing that they can do is amend the players' conduct, and they can. They've got lawyers churning right now, going,
How can we get out of this? Because we are losing dollars and we are losing sponsorships. I talked to someone at my job recently who said, "Hey, I am not going to support your business because you have an affiliation with the NFL." And so, if you're getting the third hand, I guarantee you, there's one that's first hand.
Oh, no doubt.
And so, but here's the problem. I don't think that in America you can be forced to participate in a ceremony.
I can't think so. I remember growing up, there was a kid in my high school who, religious reasons, he was Jehovah's Witness. So when we did the pledge, he always stepped outside the room. We would do at the beginning of each month, address everybody whose birthday was that month. And, and if we had a Christmas party, he was never part of it. So I'm curious as if that is the case, if that's something that they say is just part of protocol, or if that's a ceremony, like you say.
Right. It is part of a ceremony, and I can go a step further with you. In 1970, it was Judge Joseph Kearney.
Okay.
He's the judge who pretty much said it violates your First Amendment right to be forced to participate in a ceremony, and it was in relation to the Pledge of Allegiance.
Wow. Okay.
Yes. Now, I can also tell you, this is what gets me about so many things. And truth be told, I can remember when they took prayer out of schools. I can remember when we decided to not do the pledge because it says one nation under God. Right. And so we didn't want God anywhere in the school system. So I didn't agree with them taking it out, but I do agree they have the right to take it out.
Mm-hmm.
I believe, even if you don't agree with Colin Kaepernick's protest or a lot of players in the NFL, their protest, you have to agree with their right to do it.
Right.
I didn't like the fact that the Vice President Mike Pence went to a 49ers game where he knew they were going to be kneeling,
mm-hmm.
and he decided to protest the protest.
Yeah.
But he has a right to protest the protest.
Of course he does. Now, most people, I think, are mad because it costs so much money with security detail and all that, and we as taxpayers have to pay for that. But
yeah, it's a photo op.
Of course.
It's for the media. It's for the camera.
Well, it's not going away. It's not going away. And here's the... I'm going to go way down the road here, Vince. What does the end of this look like?
Well, it's going to be negotiated. I can tell you how it's going to be solved. And if they've got smart people, they'll figure it out. And if they don't have smart people, give me a call, pay me $1 million, I'll solve the problem for you. And before I get to that, I'm just going to say this too. What I really didn't like that Mike Pence did, it wasn't even the security detail and all the money he spent. I don't like the fact that he hijacked Peyton Manning's retirement ceremony.
All-time great.
You just now the front page is all about what you did,
exactly,
instead of what this man did.
Right.
And I just didn't think that was fair.
Instead of being something that we can celebrate,
right.
It's something that let's take a derogatory and negative position,
right,
and poo-poo on a great day. Peyton Manning was a joy to watch play football.
He deserved that day.
Thank you.
He deserved it.
Yeah.
Like they say, nobody studied harder, worked harder. Peyton Manning deserved that day. And I thought the vice president was out of line for taking the spotlight off of Peyton on his day in front of his fans in Indianapolis and putting the spotlight on himself.
Yep.
I thought that was very insensitive.
I agree. I totally agree.
Now, what were we talking about, Jimmy?
The protesting?
No, I'm talking about we were about to make another comment.
I'd asked you, how does this end?
Oh, how does it end? Okay.
The NFL is going to pay you $1 million.
This is how it ends. Because if Jerry, let's say Jerry would have had a person like Richard Sherman, Malcolm Jenkins, if he would have had one of those guys that, I'm protesting. I don't care what you say. You'll have to take me off the field.
Right.
Everything can be solved. And I won't say everything, but I'm going to tell you, 90% of problems can be solved by throwing money at it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to be honest with you. So how do you throw money at this problem? Well, if Jerry Jones would have came into that locker room and said, every single game that my team 100% stands for the national anthem, I'm going to donate $1 million to the charity of an agreed upon charity. Maybe even do the same thing with Colin Kaepernick.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever he donated, I'm going to donate to that same place.
Right.
If Jerry gets up there and says that, he can go on the national media and he could have said, I guarantee you, we've already come to an accord in my locker room. No one's going to be kneeling for the anthem. No problems.
Right.
Nowhere. And you know what? Nobody's going to kneel for that anthem because you know what? Then it makes them seem selfish and it makes it seem that they, in trying to protest, didn't try to find a solution.
Right.
When a solution has been presented that you should be happy about.
Right.
So if you guys are listening to me, Vince is telling you they need to throw money at the problem. Throw money into these communities. Throw education into these educational opportunities into these communities. Try to uplift it. And you can throw that money into it, and I'm telling you, people will start to stand.
Yeah, and $16 million is a drop in the bucket.
In the bucket.
He doesn't notice it.
No.
He doesn't notice it.
That's not even 5 of those 1,700 checks he received.
Exactly.
And he could have done that, and I'm telling you, you want to talk about no blowback, Jerry would be patted on the back by black players, by white players, by corporate America, by everybody out there. He should have just called me, and I could have gave him the solution.
But no, Vince, he wanted to go on TV and doing it another way.
Yeah. Well, that's ego. See, the problem with billionaires, they tend to be right because money makes them right.
Exactly. I'm right because I've got all the money.
Yes.
All the money.
I have the might that gives me the right.
Right.
Now, from the standpoint of Jerry being wrong for this, from a business standpoint, no, it hurts his bottom line. No, I don't think he's wrong from a professional standpoint. But from a personal standpoint, was Jerry wrong for the mandate? I've heard people talk about you castrate your team. You castrate them. You take their manhood. You're daring them to challenge you.
Right.
In a sport made of people used to conquering challenges.
Right.
So you're putting yourself in a bad spot because most of them won't yield. Now, Jerry can probably get away with it because his team wasn't kneeling anyway.
Right.
But if you went to the 49ers locker room or you went to the Seattle locker room, I think it would be altogether different.
Yeah. So now, hypothetical again, Dez Bryant. I think when you look at his most high-profile players, Dez seemingly the most likely to do some sort of protesting.
But I don't think Dez will either.
Dez loves Jerry Jones.
One, Dez loves Jerry. And two, I don't think Dez wants to wear the mantle of social change. It takes a special person,
I agree,
to be able to say, change needs to happen, and I'm going to be the tip of the spear that leads to that change.
Sure.
I do not believe that Dez Bryant wants to be the tip of that spear. And I'm not mad at him for that.
Right.
Because I don't believe it's for everybody.
Right.
I don't want someone that isn't capable of expressing in a way that gets the point across out here expressing in a way that divides or in a way that takes from the ultimate goal or the solution.
Sure.
And if Dez isn't the person for it, I don't want him out here making statements.
But if Dez knelt, would Jerry pull him out of the game?
Yes. Because Jerry Jones, if it's just one player, if he gets into a pissing match with one player, you got to understand, you've got millions, I've got billions. I win that pissing match.
Right.
But if you've got Dez, Zeke, Dak, and if you threw a guy like Sean Lee in there or something like that,
right,
oh my goodness, now you've got a problem.
Right.
Because Jerry can't win that pissing match.
No, he can't.
No, because
that's what I'm getting at. I wanted to hear your position because that's the part a lot of people fail to recognize as well. Remember, what if this started with Colin Kaepernick and his frustration with the treatment of the black community from police brutality.
Yes.
So what if you get a prominent white player like a Sean Lee, who's already proven that without him on the field, Dallas really is going to struggle to win?
Oh, if you had someone like Sean Lee, Neil as well, I mean, it would, or Jason Witten,
yes,
or someone like that. And I know Jason Witten said that he's not going to do that whatsoever. But if that happened, Jerry's not going to win the pissing contest. No. He can do it against one player. But if you get a coalition of players together,
a coalition of the willing.
A coalition of the willing can accomplish much, man.
Much.
I'm telling you. Now, I know we talked about, and I said I was going to explain this, as far as the slave master mentality.
Sure.
Okay. What essentially that is. And for black people, and I can speak on, from my perspective.
Sure.
I'm not Al Sharpton. I'm not trying to speak on everybody.
Right.
Everybody's perspective. And I think the majority of the time he needs to shut up, but that's a different story for a different day. But I think for black people, what we feel when we say something like that, I think it's okay. I think white people feel like it's okay when we acknowledge progress. Hey, there's been progress. When we express gratitude, and then when we're showing that we're grateful that we are in this country. right? But when we start the protest, I think there is a piece that says we want them punished for protesting because now they are being disrespectful. I think police unions not wanting to go out and secure areas.
Sure.
I think that team owners wanting to put you off the field. That is a way of punishment. And in Black America, we kind of know the history of when you get out of line, we're going to punish you, be it with a whip in the 1800s,
right?
Be it with unemployment in the 2000s,
right?
That general sense of do what I say or there will be punishment.
Right.
That's the slave master mentality that the players are referring to.
Yeah.
That they are uncomfortable with. And so I can understand why they say it, because you are essentially telling me, though I have this right, granted to me by the Constitution, that if I choose to exercise my right, you feel that I need to be punished. And that is an alarming sentiment. And it is a sentiment that you will hear echoed from the black community when there are edicts like this that seem to only apply to us.
Right.
That's why you get that mentality.
Right. I've heard some people bring up that same point, and they say to the same thing of, well, I have the right to bear arms, but I can't walk in your stadium with my gun.
Right.
You're removing my right. I want to come to your game. I've paid money to come to your game. But you're not going to let me take my Second Amendment rights into that game with me. And so I've heard people use that argument, and I don't think it's the same thing at all.
No, it's not the same thing.
But it's at the end of the day, Vince.
Because that is something that could lead to widespread violence and death. Okay, because I've got to also create a field of play in which the participants are protected and come out.
Right.
So I've got a responsibility there.
Right.
In America, if I didn't have it, I guarantee you I'd be sued.
Right.
So that it's not the same argument for that reason. Even though this is a public sporting event, we've got to protect the people that are there in support. So,
what I'm getting at with that whole statement is I'm going to look for everything that fits my argument.
Yes.
And I'm going to make and shape and spin it so my argument is the right argument. That's what everybody does.
Right. Right.
That's what an argument is.
Yes.
I'm going to find facts or what look like facts to help me win that argument.
Right.
And so, but with that, we've become so ingrained into this, and I think the struggle with the I want and need everything now mentality, because we can get anything right now, right? And I may not even have to pay for it right now. I'll pay for that later. We do the same thing with results. It's why you have the type of Cowboy fan that we don't like. They won this week? Oh, give us the trophy. Or they lost this week? You got to cut everybody. You got to cut everybody.
Well, we're going to talk about that in about another 60 seconds,
yes.
right?
So,
just in general terms, though, I think that you and I both agree it's a peaceful protest. We've made it out to be way more than what it is. But eventually, how it ends, I think you have to throw money at that problem. And that works, Jimmy. I'm telling you,
I know.
It works. Hey, my refrigerator goes out tomorrow. You know what I got to do? I got to throw money at that problem.
You got to throw money at it, yeah.
Yeah. If something happens as far as house burning down, hey, you got to throw some money at that problem. A lot of times, 90% of the time, throwing money at a problem
fixes it.
Yeah,
I hear you.
So that's what's going to end up happening.
All right.
You'll hear that. Okay,
what do we got?
Let's talk. We only got 20 minutes, but of course, I got to rant about the Dallas Cowboys playing the Green Bay Packers.
Okay, I won't.
Your team was on bye.
My team didn't lose.
Your team didn't lose.
Man, they played.
And I lost ground.
Right.
So technically, my team lost.
They played a great game.
So Dallas loses to Green Bay. Just to give you guys an idea, they allowed 24th quarter points to Green Bay in a losing effort.
Yeah.
And I'm ticked off.
Okay.
And I got two people that I'm ticked off with.
Well, I think I know who one of them are.
Who's one?
Well, Aaron Rodgers is one of them.
Oh no, I can't blame Aaron Rodgers for winning.
Okay,
that's what he's out there. He gets paid to win that game.
So then Jason Garrett is one of them.
You're close.
Linehan.
Marinelli. Okay. And I'm going to tell you why I'm pissed off at Marinelli. I'm looking at the camera for this one. Marinelli, I've got a 6'3" wide receiver. They have 11 yards to go for the touchdown. Pretty much last play of the game, last couple of plays of the game. I'm guarding him with a 5'10" cornerback. Aaron Rodgers, one of the most accurate passers in NFL history. You get fortunately lucky because he throws it a little bit low.
Oh, the first one?
On the first one. 2 shots. First time he throws it a little bit low, and that 5'10" cornerback can make a play on the ball. And we all believe Aaron Rodgers is a great quarterback. Apparently, Rod Marinelli does not. Because what does he do? After Aaron Rodgers does this the first time, and I went watching the TV, whoo, man.
Yeah.
That could have been ugly.
Yeah.
He rolls out the exact same defense.
Yes.
No safety shading to the left side of the field. Aaron Rodgers throws the exact same pass, this time a little bit more accurate, touchdown, game over. Why in the world did Rob Marinelli not change up the defense? We've got 8 defensive backs on the field. 8 defensive backs to cover 4 wide receivers. And you know what we do? We don't send a double over here with the safety. We leave Jeff Heath just sitting there in the middle of the field. I did not understand why there was not an adjustment made after you saw. If I see this on Madden, I'm on Madden playing Madden. The guy next to me, he throws it over here, and the guy should have made a touchdown catch, but the throw was bad.
Yep.
The very next play, you know what I'm doing? I'm shading my safety over.
Yes.
You're not going to beat me with that.
Right.
You may beat me with something else, but you won't beat me with that. They beat us with that. Rob Marinelli, come on. You've got coaching, years of experience, and this is what you do? This is how you lose a game? This is ridiculous. I'm not even mad at you for all of the first downs you gave up on that drive, because I actually believe sometimes it's coaching, sometimes it's the players. When Aaron Rodgers scrambled for that, 18 yards?
Yep.
When he scrambled for 18 yards, that was a player error. It was a player mental error. Both guys went with the running back. The guy that was assigned to spy with him stopped spying him. He went with the running back. That was player error, mental error. I don't know why I can still fault you. You shouldn't have the guy out there. But that play right there should have been defended better from a coaching standpoint. Marinelli's the first person. Second person. Terrence Williams lost the game.
One of the things, and guys, if you don't remember, Vince and I do not talk about anything as far as the show goes. I have been looking forward to this explosion for 4 days now.
Terrence Williams lost the game.
Go.
You are up. You have the ball. We saw we could run the ball as soon as it happened. Terrence Williams, Mr. I can only catch with my body and never with my hands. You lost the game last week when it hit you in the end zone in the hands and you didn't catch it.
Right.
This week, you give up an interception off a ball that hits your body, ricochets off, goes into the hands of another player, the opposite team's player.
Return for 6.
Terrence Williams, pick 6. This game was your fault. We had, I hate to get, what's Dennis Green? We had him where we wanted him.
Oh.
We let him off the hook. We let him off the hook. Terrence Williams, let him off the hook. Terrence Williams, at this point, in my opinion, has now cost us 2 games. 2 games.
As an outsider,
yes,
watching that game, the moment that bounces off his chest and is returned for a touchdown, my immediate statement was, I guess Bryce Butler's starting next week.
I think it's almost about time. I think it's time to pull. We've almost got it right. Jason Garrett's a little bit slow in making these decisions. This is the part about him I hate.
I know.
Because his personnel decisions are not the best.
No.
Jeff Heath should not have been at the safety position.
No.
That should be Xavier Woods. I think it has been enough evidence displayed on the football field to say Jeff Heath does not belong on it as your full-time safety. Bring out the young guy. Let him make his mistakes.
Right.
Let's see what happens, because he cannot play worse. Nolan Carroll is gone. Now it's you, Jeff Heath.
Yeah.
You've got to go. You've got to go. Either to the bench, put him in on the dime, and don't put him in anywhere else. And don't give him safety responsibility because he takes too many bad angles to the ball.
Yes, he does.
Now, Owuze can play safety. Xavier Woods can play safety. Whoever you want to do it, just let it be somebody other than Jeff Heath. I'm tired of seeing it.
So there are two players that I'm looking at right now going, they cannot be in the roles that they are.
Mm-hmm.
Terrence Williams, one of them. I'm sorry.
At some point, you got to call it on him.
And here's the other thing. Isn't Terrence Williams supposed to be my speed guy?
He is supposed to be the speed guy.
So that means the great days. You had Michael Irving on one side.
Alvin Harper on the other.
Alvin Harper, your job was solely, you were a high jumper in college.
Yes.
I'm going to throw it real far. And
you jump up and get it.
You jump up and get it. Now, to do that, you have to do that with your hands. And even more, if I hit you in stride, you're running a fly or a go route. That's right here, not in here. So, Terrence Williams cannot be what you've bred him to be at all. And so, I sit and I continue to watch it, and I'm going, Bryce Butler has proven himself to be able to get separation. And we talk about the 50-50 ball. Bryce Butler goes up and gets those. Again, you can't do any worse. You can only improve with a guy that I know that you're paying Terrence Williams, what, 4 for 22 or something like that?
4 for 16.
4 for 17. That's what it is.
17, yeah.
So it's not like you have a massive amount committed to him. Any wise investor will tell you sometimes you cut your losses.
Right. I'm with you. Terrence Williams, I would love to see Bryce Butler in that role. I would love to see. Because I would love, at this point, and I might be pissed off, and that's the reason I'm saying, I'll take Noah Brown. I just don't want Terrence Williams on the field. Jason Garrett has to know this guy cost us this game, and he had about 80% to do with the last game.
Right.
I can't trust you to make the plays in the big moment. Why do I have you on the team? I'm not saying cut the guy, but he needs to go to the sideline because he's not making the plays that I pay him to make.
The other player, I have to think Anthony Hitchens starts over Jalen Smith in 2 weeks.
Jalen Smith is not capable of playing in space right now.
It's not that the talent isn't there. What do they say?
It's the foot.
The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak.
Right. The body's not able.
And it's not to say that he won't get there, but without a guy like Sean Lee to do what Sean Lee does,
can cover him up. Yeah.
Jalen Smith is a massive liability on that incredibly soft second level of the defense, which, as we talked about last week, is truly, in our opinion, I think we both agree, is what is killing these games for the Cowboys. When you saw Aaron Jones out of UTEP, who none of us had ever heard of, peel off 30-yard runs during the 2-minute drill, and you have linebackers chasing him from the back and not catching him, that's a problem.
Now, Jalen Smith, you got to do something because he's just not able to play in space. He can't move side to side. He doesn't have that quickness, and that's a problem with his foot. I mean, I think ultimately, if it ever comes back, I think he'll be able to. But right now, he can't make quick cuts, quick turns. He can't do it, and he's having a problem unless the play is in front of him, turning and running. He can't do it.
That's what I was just about to say. There were 5 distinct plays when they showed the replay from the back, from the safety view. You see him doing this. Where do I go? Oh, it's behind me. And it takes him forever to turn.
Yeah.
You're out of the play at that point.
Yeah.
You are absolutely – in college, you could catch up to stuff. This is the NFL. Everybody is fast. So those two guys, because now that you have David Irving back,
who looked like a beast.
Okay. And I hope everybody saw – it was a brief snippet, but there was a moment where Aaron Rodgers had to tuck and run to the right side, and he gained a yard. In walking back to the huddle – David Irving is behind Aaron Rodgers. You see David Irving's entire helmet. Aaron Rodgers is 6'3".
Right.
You see David Irving's entire helmet above Aaron Rodgers' helmet.
He's a beast.
This is a huge man that played really well.
And looked good in the defensive tackle in that
yes.
rush package.
So
looked great as a defensive tackle.
if you can get Anthony Hitchens, who is a decent player, he may be better than he is right now, but even at the level he is, I think he's a better option than Jalen Smith.
Especially on passing down.
So the problem is nobody knows when you're going to get Sean Lee back.
He's practicing. He practiced yesterday.
I understand, but as we've seen historically, Vince,
no
he's
guarantee.
been rushed back every time. And when he gets hurt for at least 2 games, there's another 2-game stretch in his every season that's happened. There's another 2-game stretch after that initial game back that he's out again. It might be wise to say, I know you feel like you're ready to come back, 1 more week. Because I'd rather have you for the rest of the season than this week and then lose you for 2 more.
Right.
So, but that's always been the knock on Sean Lee. I truly believe Sean Lee, if he could stay healthy, would be one of the 10 greatest linebackers to ever play the game.
Ooh, I don't know about that, but I will say he's Hall of Fame talent.
Dude, the talent is insane.
Yes,
because not only does he give you that, I'm going to clog the middle, I'm going to have lateral movement so you can't get past me, I also can intercept and return the ball.
He can intercept the ball. He plays the passing lanes very, very well.
He's
a Hall of Fame. He has Hall of Fame talent.
Right.
Yes.
He's just not going to have Hall of Fame numbers because he can't stay on the field.
Right.
So I say it. The guy looks like Mike Singletary to me. And that's a bold statement. But and that's coming from somebody, again, I am not a Cowboy fan, but I love watching Sean Lee play football because he does what a middle linebacker is supposed to do.
Yeah.
He's around the ball every play. If he didn't make the tackle, there's a good chance he has an assist, and if he didn't, he took 2 other players out of the play so somebody else could get in there.
And when he hits you, you fall down.
You go down.
If you're wearing a Dallas Cowboy uniform,
right.
They have to be like, Sean's coming, get out of the way.
Right. So all I'm saying is there is a greatness level and right now your significant drop-off to Jalen Smith it's drastic.
Defensive coordinators have identified this guy can't turn and run.
And they are exploiting it. And when you look, before I say what to say, I don't want to forget this. How nice was it to see Cole Beasley?
Cole Beasley showed up.
Right.
And when Cole Beasley shows up, the offense performs well. I don't think that there's any shock there. Speaking of, what did you think about them throwing the ball on that first down at the end of the game?
Oh, the second down?
The second and 2.
Yeah, second and 2.
Second and 2.
Okay.
We ran the ball all the way down.
You just ran the ball.
8 yards.
8 yards. They are not stopping the run. No. Zeke was a beast on Sunday. He was dragging people for an extra 2 to 3 yards. So my big problem was armchair quarterback, but I could not believe they threw the ball. Because ultimately, if I run and score, which is what I was trying to do with the pass play anyway, was score at that point, so be it. But if I don't get in, I can get a first down.
Right, 2 yards away.
2 yards away, and the clock keeps running.
Because that's the most important thing going against Aaron Rodgers. Didn't you guys watch the game in the playoffs last year?
How many times does he have to do this to let people know number 12 just does this?
Right.
He's John Elway. This is what they do.
Right. Especially against any kind of subpar secondary.
And
it's a done deal. Tom Brady's the same way. Certain guys, if you give them the ball with minutes winding down, they're going to make the plays to beat you. Tell me, I'm a Cowboy fan. Ask me, what was the chances when we scored and the defense was well rested and they only had it to hold for a minute 12? What do you think I was saying?
We're going to lose this game.
We're going to lose this game. You can't get
They ran the ball 3 times in the 2-minute drill and got out of bounds every time. I'll tell you this. I struggled at that moment to go, where in the world is my contain? Where is my contain? But you talk about Jeff Heath. Mm-hmm. If you go back and you watch those 3 running plays, now I don't even call that Aaron. The Aaron Rodgers one really wasn't designed as a running play. He just made a smart play and also took advantage of a couple of mental errors on the Cowboys. That I understand. But the running plays, the 30-yarder, Jeff Heath is trying to do a straight down the line, the yardage line, to tackle instead of taking an angle like this that gets you to him before he gets to out of bounds.
Right.
That's junior high.
Yeah. Well, when they decided not to run, Jimmy, and they threw the ball, and it was an RPO play, but the coach has to say, at no point in time, I'm sorry, for those that don't know, RPO, that's a run-pass option. It's a run-pass option play. At no point in time will you take the pass option.
Right.
And I know, looking at the alignment, I know Dak read it perfect. He said, this is a play
no
that
doubt.
goes to Dez.
Yes.
But you can't throw the ball in that situation.
Green Bay had one timeout. Mm-hmm. If you don't throw there and you just stop the clock, you don't get in, they have to use that timeout right there.
That's right.
They have to.
That's right.
And then you, at that point, you get your first down or you score. But either way, they don't have their timeout.
That's right.
They don't win that game without that timeout.
Because it takes at minimum 13 seconds to line up and run a play.
Yeah.
13 seconds, which means, based on that math, they only would have been allowed to run probably 3. Aaron Rodgers, I might give him 4. But that's it.
Yeah. 4
plays. And be honest with you, it wasn't going to happen. It wasn't going to happen. You lost the game. It's just another example of a game we should have won. I think the more talented team lost again for the second time.
You know my position. I believe Jason Garrett, when you look at what he has to work with and tenure and all that, Jason Garrett is proving himself to be the worst coach in the NFL. I think he's a great guy, but Jason Garrett is the worst coach in the NFL.
Worst coach in the NFL.
Now, wow. McCall in New York, or what's it?
Yeah, the guy in New York.
Mick. Oh my God, what's his name? He's lost the team. All your receivers are hurt. I'm playing wide receiver this weekend for the Giants.
Really? I had a tryout. Did they choose you over me?
They did.
Wow. I got to talk to my agent.
Yeah, affirmative action. I don't know. No, they have no team left. When
it's a done deal.
When Odell Beckham goes down, you're done.
Their offense.
Leslie Shepard gone. Brandon Marshall gone. I mean, it's just Devin Harris gone.
Devin Hester.
No. But you lost 4. You lost all 4 of your starting wide receivers in one game. So, anyway, in all of this, McAdoo?
McAdoo. Ben McAdoo. That's it.
Yeah. So, he may be, but he's simply suffering from a lack of talent as well. He has no offensive line and no running game. He came into a situation that, while a lot of people picked them to win the division, they're not going to win a game.
Oh, they're going to win some. They're going to win some. The great thing about the NFL, the coaches are so good at that level that they start to figure things out. They'll win some games. They probably won't win more than 5, but they'll win some games. I think Eli is going to get battered and bruised, and we're probably going to see his streak of consecutive games go away.
At this point, I think you have to. You have to develop somebody else.
Well,
and he's going to get beat up. Yeah, he's just going to get destroyed.
Right. You didn't invest in the line to protect him for another 4
You have no
5
running
years.
back that can pick up a blitz. If I'm any defense right now, I put 8 in the box and I'm rushing a safety. I mean, because who are they going to throw to?
Right. The wide receivers probably aren't going to be able to get any kind of separation.
So,
it's done for the Giants. They're toast.
Let's see what the Eagles are doing real quick.
As far well, we're hoping that they're losing.
They're up 28-16 at the start of the 4th quarter. What is Carolina? That's another day, I know, but we got to get going. It's right at 10 o'clock.
Right at 10 o'clock. We appreciate you guys joining us tonight. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. Jimmy, any final thoughts on anything?
Guys, I got to tell you, just as a different perspective, Vincent brings it up every week, but took some time this week to listen to some other shows as well. Man's Point of View is such a good show.
Oh, great.
I mean, seriously, if you that Coach's Corner, again, these are shows that if we all know that everybody's only got a certain amount of time in each day.
Right.
This can be stuff that's on in the background, but it will grab your attention. You know, I hope that Vince and I do that. I hope that we say a couple things that just kind of get you thinking. That's, in all reality, that's what anybody does this for, is to get you thinking. Because I want people having good football talk, because that means I might get to join in better football talk, or basketball, or baseball, whatever the case is. Sports, without being a religion, are a religion. And I want y'all to believe in my religion.
Hey, it's how I spend my Sunday.
Right. So, but no, there's a great opportunity here for you guys to see some different perspectives. As someone that is, we gravitate to that which we're like. Mm-hmm. Is that a fair statement?
That is.
As you start getting outside your own kind of box, you start seeing a different perspective, and it makes you ask questions.
Right.
Folks, I encourage you to ask some questions. Don't just be mad at what's going on around you. Ask some simple questions like, what can I do to make it different? Why am I mad? Do I have a reason for being mad? Most of us react because it's simply that, a reaction. Instead of it being a thought-out process, I'm making this bigger than it needs to be, and I'm sorry, but
you got time, Jimmy. It's your show.
I'm just telling you. We talk about the protests. We talk about Zeke, and we talk about we as fans being frustrated. Well, why am I frustrated? Don't just be mad because the news or somebody told you to be mad. Be mad and try to do something productive with it. Every coach will tell you, use that anger, use that aggression, but use it against the other team. And the other team in this case is not, for me, it's not black men. The other team is hatred. The other team is evil and tyranny. The other team is ignorance.
Ignorance.
And if I can learn, if I can grow, and if you can do that, we're not all ever going to be the same. We've all grown up learning to celebrate our differences. But we also have to respect one another. Let's learn to do that first and then ask those questions. They'll be received much better if coming from a place of love other than
you're wrong.
You're wrong. I'm pointing a finger because you're wrong.
I think Jimmy just said enough for both of us. It's about sometimes closing your mouth and opening your ears and listening. And we do need to develop a way in which we're able to communicate. Because we're all on the same team. We all want a better America.
Right.
We all want to see our country, and we all do see our country as the best out there in the world. And so we want to continue for America to be seen as that. And the way we stay on top, it's by taking the one advantage that we really do have over other countries, in that we are a country that is got a lot of different nationalities, a lot of different traditions. As long as we're communicating and trying to learn from each other, that's what kind of separates us from the rest of the world, man.
Yeah.
So we appreciate you guys joining us. We'll be back next Thursday.
Yep.
Hopefully we're celebrating a Cowboys win, a Redskins loss.
They got a bye, so.
Hopefully we're celebrating a Cowboys win.
No, the Cowboys have a bye. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, they both have bye.
No, the Redskins run a bye. That's what I'm saying. The Cowboys have a bye.
Well, we win when the Redskins lose. That's.
You want to make up ground? Is that what you're saying?
That's what we're going to do.
All I can say is, folks, what I'm super happy about is no matter what happens this week, the Cowboys will not leap us as far as standings. And this far into the season, that is a win in my books.
You know what? It's time for us to go. See you next week.
See you guys.
Enjoyed it. Have a good time. Those are the fans everybody should hate.